Podcast, the only podcast that'll tell you to chase your dreams, call you out on all your bullshit, myself included. I'm your host, Jon Cerone. This week, we got Brandon Kaitschuck here to talk about recovery, sobriety, wellness, and all that other good stuff. Inspiring a motivational story about what led him to change his life and get back on his horse, start caring about, everything that is mental, physical, emotional well-being. He's also one of the members of the band Toad. They were on a couple weeks ago to talk about how music is an important part of wellness. Don't forget to listen to that episode, also a good one. So this week with Brandon's going to be a good one. I think that the following week we're going to have a solo podcast. So for all you people that don't really enjoy the solo podcast, you don't have to listen to it. I don't really give a shit. Going to be taking a different route on that one other than just updates on my life. Got something planned. I think I will be up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for some well-needed creativity time out in nature, which kind of spurred me to do a solo podcast. So that should be coming out in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for the rest of the episode. And stay up and feel free.
You want to give me a general question to get us kicked off?
General theme. When did your journey with addiction start?
Yeah, man. Journey with addiction started back in the day. I believe I was 15 years old. And, it all started with a magical plant called marijuana, which that can't be addicting because it's a plant, right? So that was the thought. But man, I look back at it, I'm like, there was no one that liked smoking weed as much as I did at that point. Social group, social setting, by myself, and it got to a point to where, like, I remember when I first really got like a pretty good high from marijuana as a 15-year-old. And I was like, this is it. Like, this solves my feeling of sadness, of isolation, anxiety. Like, that was my cure for a while, right? And it wasn't very sustainable given the fact that, it smells, your parents find out. You can't have a sustainable life and just constantly be smoking weed all the time or doing any drugs for that matter. But it was very socially acceptable among my peers in high school. So dealt with that for a while, man. 16, started drinking a little bit, experimenting with Xanax, benzos, did some drinking. It wasn't long before. And this is all just going to be kind of like rough estimate timelines. But,
right.
Eventually that led into some serious, I had a lot of conflict with my parents, right? They don't come from, I guess, a real history of like drug use. They were 80s teenagers. So they did some partying and drinking, and that was kind of always the more socially acceptable thing, but they were never marijuana users or drug users. So it was really difficult on them to know that I was doing this stuff. And it created a lot of like animosity and distrust. And that eventually led to an inpatient rehab. I went to rehab when I was an adolescent, 16 years old. I was either 15. I believe I was 16 the first time. Had some sobriety for about 3 months. Ended up going back. Ran away from home. Did that whole charade when I was about 17. Ran away from home. Failed out of high school for a quarter. Like, I remember just being like, fuck you. I just completely checked out, man. And that wasn't like me. I was always someone who cared about performing well, at least academically. I wasn't so much an athlete. But I was very interested in school and projects and presentations. And that was kind of like, I got a lot of enjoyment out of that. So went to school, got like a 0.0. Eventually I agreed to going back to rehab. That was actually the second time I went back. I recall it was a very bad mushroom trip, dude. The mushrooms can do that shit to you, right? They could really be spooky. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, right? The tale of two mushrooms, as I like to put it. So I stayed with my uncle, and I remember, like, my parents, they were obviously in contact with the school, therapists, people within, the adolescent psychology community. And, they learned, like, the best thing you can do to get your son back is to, like, use love, right? Not like anger and force, and to just kind of put that love in. So I stayed with my uncle for a week when I was runaway. He was driving me to school, and they had like a family photo album, and I bought like a 1/4 ounce of mushrooms prior to staying with him. And I remember like, oh, I'm going to trip balls at his place and grab a bunch of orange juice. Mind you, like this is a time where I'm obviously in a very bad spot.
Dude, the orange juice, like with the shroom. Oh man, that's fucked.
So I was 17, runaway, depressed, hated my life, failing out of school, angry as fuck at my parents, angry at myself. No sense of direction. And I ate a bunch of mushrooms and I chugged that orange juice. And dude, that was a fucking scary night. I started seeing the devil in the walls at his place, and I cried. I cried myself to sleep that night. So I was going through the photo album, like pictures of me and my fam. It was just like it was a very good thing to happen, but bad thing to happen. So I called my mom and I was like, I'll go to rehab. Just get me the fuck out of here. I gotta do something. And so that was a catalyst for that, man. And, there were periods of sobriety after that. My high school graduation was dry. So I was in intensive outpatient with other people my age that were teenagers looking to get sober. There was a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, 12-step programs that I was involved in at that age. And group social settings, social groups. Through that time period, I had been to roughly 10 to 20 funerals of people my age that have died from drug overdoses. Going into college, I lost my best friend at the time, Steve Sharon, rest in peace, from a heroin overdose. He met a girl when he was in rehab that was a recovering heroin addict, and she relapsed, and he got into the dope and ended up killing himself. It had to be one of the first times of him using it. So that was rough. And went to college, kind of started back up. Right. Started back up with the weed freshman year. I believe that's around the time when I met you. We were kind of out doing our own things, party scene a little bit.
That is when I met you. Yeah,
that was we. There's some other characters that were involved in that story as well, and that was a wild and fun year. I was able to sustain a level of success academically using I guess you could call it the moderated marijuana alcohol. Dude, I was doing everything though. I was doing a lot of shit too. I was taking pills, but I believe I had gone so hard in high school that I'm like, okay, I was able to sustain at least good grades, right? That's what it was. I wasn't very active in extracurricular. I wasn't doing community service and shit, but I was doing the fuck out of class. So I probably got a 3.5, 3.6 grade point average freshman year, right? I started studying Mandarin Chinese, which became a real interest of mine. So as I would go around, everyone liked to smoke all the time at Grand Valley, right? So we would go take cruises, we'd go to people's houses. If I was at your house smoking weed with you, I had my fucking Chinese book in my hand. And I was studying Mandarin. I was doing my homework. Everyone make fun of me. I'm like, dude, we smoke so much weed that I literally have to take all my homework with me and do it while we get high. And it worked for me. I figured it out. So I learned Chinese while I was high for a year. And that was sustainable. Got into MDMA pretty hardcore. Yeah. That following summer, that was the summer of the first electric forest. It was the summer of 2013. We had dabbled into Bitcoin. Bitcoin was around $60 back then. We were getting plethora of things through the utilization of Bitcoin in marketplaces. And I thought I was living the life of just a fucking outlaw king, ego, psychedelics, LSD, dimethyltryptamine, you name, it was a unreal experience. It was crazy. There was death. Lost another friend who had overdosed that summer. Fucking so much shit. This summer, so the summer of 2013, right, was the summer of, basically, I guess you can call it the summer of love, the summer of psychedelics, right? For our generation. This was when EDM, dubstep were becoming more prominent.
It's huge.
EDM culture, right? A lot of these big names. It was a pivotal moment, in society. So you had this catalyst for just a perfect storm, right? And I went too deep that summer. I came back the next year, complete ego death, extreme depression, no sense of self or who I was, just quite literally afraid of my fucking shadow, like afraid of existing, man. Like there were times where I almost checked myself in to a psychiatric institution, and I largely attribute that to well, it wasn't MDMA at the time, it was BK-MDMA, it was methadone, right?
Right.
But that shit was neurotoxic as fuck. So that was a changing point where I had made some changes, and I was humbled by that. There was a lot of growth. Although I didn't get sober at that point in life, there was like this feeling of like a rebirth. Like I feel like I changed as a person. I became more aware socially. I started caring more about other people, and I just kind of realized that I'm not this God, right? I'm not God. I'm a human that can be destroyed and brought to the point of wanting to no longer exist.
Right.
So that was a learning experience. Eventually, man, let's see, where does that put us? Okay, get back to school, do a couple years at Grand Valley. Fucking still using drugs, but stopped using the ecstasy. The ecstasy stopped. There was dabbling in opiates. Oh, this is when I kind of want to start getting into cocaine. So
yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because you might have to help me remember this shit, man. This is like 16 years of drug use. Like
after your junior year at Grand Valley, because I was gone for a year when I had failed out. When I came back the second time around at Grand Valley, that was when we started getting closer and started hanging out.
Was that when I was
often.
at Enclave?
Yeah, that was when you were
paranoia.
First, it was when you were in the business college right next to me.
That was when I moved in. My parents were helping me move in, and I saw you and Evan.
Yeah,
that was the year before Enclave.
I'm saying that year started it when I came back. Correct. Then we started hanging out because we were literally in buildings right next to each other.
Yeah.
And then when you moved to Enclave, then we started hanging out.
Yeah.
I came in that year with my shit together, on like you had stated in your story before, like I was on the dean's list, but I was still partying. So it like reinforced the idea that I knew what I was doing, right?
For sure.
And then it spiraled out of control. And well, actually, we were both there when we were both spiraling. So
yeah, I know. I remember going into your place and just seeing nothing but mist. It looked like because from the fucking vape, you had that mod, and I would walk in your room. I'd be like, I can't believe the fucking fire alarms aren't going off. Like, dude, I felt like it was like I was at Rainforest Cafe or some shit. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck, Blueberry Rainforest Cafe, So that year, right? It continued. Money was coming in. We'll say that money was coming in. Things were happening. I had taken a leadership position within an organization, a nonprofit libertarian organization. So that gave me a little bit of purpose outside of some of the unhealthy habits, right? There were all things were in motion that held me accountable to at least some sort of individuals, right? But nothing, there was not much, there weren't healthy habits in terms of my physical and mental and spirit. I mean, how healthy can you be, right, when you're consuming at that kind of rate? So
yeah,
that ended in another rehab. So first rehab in college, I got addicted to fentanyl. I was addicted to a bunch of shit, man. I mean, I just put it out there. Like at one point, I remember I was waking up. I would take a Xanax bar. When I get right out of bed, I'd take a Xanax bar. I would do a little bit of fentanyl out of like this nasal spray that I had. Do you remember that shit? Yeah.
I didn't do it.
No, I know you. Yeah, I know you didn't do it. People were like, "What the fuck?" Like that was like, and it wasn't sold to me as fentanyl originally, which is fucked up. That was sold as oxycodone nasal spray. Whatever the fuck
out of here. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
Dickhead. That guy was a dickhead. Like motherfucker. But I didn't really give a shit after I had tried it a few times. I was like, I don't care what this is. I like it. And
there's the kratom too.
That's after. So it's
it's
crazy going through this. That was the fucking worst, dude. I'm going to put that out there right now for the whole universe because I guarantee you have listeners that do some sort of harm reduction therapy. There's a lot of popular techniques like California Sober, like, right, just smoke your weed. I'm a recovering heroin addict or alcoholic and I smoke weed. That's fine, dude. Like, whatever works for you, works for you. But if there's one thing I got to say, like, is bad news bears, man, it's that kratom shit. I cannot fucking believe that. I can't believe what that did to me. the withdrawals from that, I would have been better off withdrawing off of dope and fentanyl 100% than withdrawing from
That's
kratom.
crazy.
It was the worst
That's
draw. I
crazy.
grabbed a frying pan when I'm at my parents' house detoxing from this shit. They wanted me off of it. I wanted off of it too. I was miserable, dude. Mood swings, like I can't even believe it. I was taking a lot. Like I was taking a shit ton of it, but
Yeah, you
you know,
were.
yeah, dude. But
Those
you know,
bags
it's
were
like,
big.
dude, they were big. I was buying them by the kilos. I was getting them shit from
Yeah.
Bali. I was like, I had a guy, dude. I had a guy for everything. Like Zach's like, what the fuck? Like 4 or 5 kilos of kratom show up to his dad's house. I'm like, listen, bro, it's just a plant.
Classic.
You know, completely legal. You could buy this shit at a fucking smoke shop. And but the withdrawals were so bad. I was on like probably day 6. I couldn't sleep. So I grabbed a frying pan. I was at my parents' house. I grabbed a frying pan. I tried knocking myself out. I was smashing myself in the face with a frying pan at like 4 o'clock in the morning, man. Just trying to like, I need sleep. It drove me mad. So, all right. So let's backtrack here. So we enter in to rehab, inpatient. This is the 3rd inpatient, right? First time in college. End up taking a semester off, which like I did not want it. I remember being like, I got it. I had great grades too, and this is the dangerous part. Going into that rehab, it was really tough for me to swallow because although I was on a cocktail and a plethora of opiates, benzodiazepines, psychedelics, you name it, alcohol, cocaine, I was leading 2 group projects and I had a 3.9 grade point average. And I had to withdraw myself as a medical thing for my own health. I was gonna fucking die. I would have eventually fucking died for sure. Like you can't mix cocaine, Xanax, Adderall, and fentanyl together and alcohol and expect to live very long. So that's precisely what I was doing every day, right? So thank God, right? When I was withdrawing off the fentanyl, I called my mom and I was emotional and I was crying. I was in pain, man. I was in pain bad. She's always been there. Her and my dad have always been there to support me. You know, I put them through so much shit, and we've had a lot of, we've had a tough relationship navigating through a lot of these problems, right? It's been difficult, right? It's never easy on any family, and they've always had my back, and they just want, what's best for me. So they got me into treatment. I lived with them in Cadillac, Michigan, when they had a place there for maybe 4, 5, 6 months or something like that, until I honestly can't remember. When you come off of all this stuff too, like there's a period where you don't remember, right. Even when you get clean. Like what I was told, my grandmother was a recovering addict, and she told me that she doesn't remember the first 2 years after she got sober, because it's completely different, right? So there's a good chance that this whole year of my sobriety in the future, I might not really remember that well, because it's new. Brain chemistry is settling. Like we just came off a 15-year bender. It does something, right? So I get sober-ish, 3 months, still, once again, only doing it for my loved ones. I felt resentment and animosity that I couldn't go see Bass Nectar. I wanted to go see Bass Nectar's Halloween show. And I remember being like, why can't I see Bass Nectar? And like, I was so fucking pissed. I bought my ticket, whatever, and I wanted to go do that. And my dad was like, that's not a good idea. He's right. I wouldn't want to now. Definitely not see Bass Nectar now, but I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to go into that environment right now. It's not enjoyable. But at that time I was, I liked that scene. That's who my friends were. And
right.
So that was tough. Went back to school, basically fucking relapsed right away. Started drinking, more cocaine, extreme paranoia. I was with Jon, and like I could tell stories about that, but it was bad, man. I completely lost my peace of mind. I quite literally was so afraid that I was going to go to fucking prison for the rest of my life. I was fucking scared. I was absolutely horrified, paranoid. People I knew were getting thrown in prison. What I was trying to juggle wasn't sustainable. But so I put in a semester. I managed to pass my classes. I believe at this point in time, my grades did start tapering. Like it eventually catches up with you, right? So I was doing enough to pass and get through my classes, but I wasn't highly performing. I move out of, this goes on for about another year. I move out of Enclave. Fuck, where are we at, Jon? So I come back from rehab, and I believe I moved to
You moved
Enclave.
down to
Or was it with a Vito? When was I on Vito Street? Did I
when
go
you
from
moved.
on?
That was at. You went from Enclave to downtown GR. You were living
Yeah,
with your one DJ buddy and all of his
yeah,
other
with
buddies, and
Kane.
you only
Yeah,
stayed. Yeah, you only stayed there for a little bit, and
yeah, because that was
then
bad.
right. Then
Yeah.
I ended up leaving in the fall of 2017 because I was just a raging alcoholic, and I only
Okay.
lasted 2 weeks in class that semester, and then I'm
Two
like, I
weeks.
have to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm done. So I don't know
Okay.
where you moved after the Vito Street one
We'll
though,
talk about Vito Street for a second. So
for sure.
I'm on Vito Street. I remember just feeling like super depressed. I wasn't. I didn't exactly fit in well with my roommates at the time. I've always been a black sheep, and like, but me with the drugs too also makes it like a little bit harder to live with, I would imagine. I kept that out of people's faces, but when when I'm addicted to cocaine and I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, just constantly smoking cigarettes outside, like, probably have an idea that your roommate is like, out of his fucking mind. So I never really connected with those guys. I did get in physical shape, which is interesting because a lot of those guys were big fitness people, and so was Kane. Kane was on a
Yeah,
huge fitness thing.
it was a
So
weird combo.
it was weird, man. So okay, so yeah, I kind of got my fitness thing. So I lost 40
Yeah,
pounds. I got addicted to cocaine and Xanax. I would go work out while I was blackout. I would go to the gym at 3 o'clock in the morning with 2 grams of cocaine, and I would just do it. And then I would run like 2 miles, and then I would do it, and I'd run 2 miles. Then I'd start lifting. So I was doing coke and exercise. That was my thing for that year. Lost a bunch of
insane.
weight. It was fucked, dude. I
It's
seriously
fucked.
just I don't know why I did that shit to myself. Like, I couldn't just accept. I was like, if I'm gonna do cocaine, I'm gonna be a good cocaine user. Like, man, it was just so much. My sleep schedule was so bad for so long. So they eventually wanted me to leave. They wanted me to leave the house. I understood, and I was like, what the fuck? I was surprised at the time, but like, I shouldn't have been living there. Honestly, it wasn't a good fit. And I remember being like, okay, this is the worst. It can't get it can't get much worse than this. So I drive. I've got probably like a few $1,000s in my pocket. I'm like, I'm gonna go to the casino. I drive to the casino. My car, I crashed my fucking Malibu. Like, it spun out. It wasn't aligned properly when I took it in. So I just smashed. Like, I spun out on the expressway, smashed into a wall, and the car's smoking. And I just remember, like, God damn it. So I was so just like over it. I just got out of the car and just started walking home. And some guy comes up to me on the expressway. He's like, whoa, 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 dude, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's all good, man. I'm just gonna go home. Like, I was just like
I'm
over it.
just
I'm
gonna
like, I don't
go
know.
home.
Yeah, and he's like, dude, I just called the police. Like, you can't. I was like, oh shit. I wasn't drunk. So I remember the first thing I did when my car crashed, like, there was all this smoke coming up. I'm like, oh shit, I have Xanax in here. I like found the drugs and I threw them off the fucking highway. And then I
Fuck.
started walking home, and the guy's like, dude, I just saw that. Like, are you okay? Like, that was fucking crazy. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, man. I'll be all good. And then he's like, okay, well, the police are coming. I was like, fuck. So right when the police show up, I'm like, I'm not drunk. And he's like, okay, like, all right, man. And they didn't breathalyze me or anything. I wasn't drinking, but I was definitely probably on Xanax and a whole bunch of other shit. But
Right.
they didn't really test for that. Like, you can't.
No.
There's no breathalyzer for drugs. I hear they have one for marijuana now. I'm not sure about that other stuff unless they test your blood levels. But moral of the story for that day was it can always get worse. It can always get worse. So
So
make the right decisions that you have control over to not make it worse. Like, what the fuck was I doing driving to the casino? I was making poor decisions, and I kept putting myself in a bad spot.
right. So you were able to graduate Grand Valley.
Okay.
And I
Yep.
know you went through a phase out of college in recent years where you really just stuck to drinking and smoking marijuana occasionally, right? And you
Yeah.
you might have dabbled with harder stuff here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
you haven't been doing shit like your college days, that's for sure. But because you were
Correct.
just doing the alcohol and the marijuana, you're like, well, this is society can accept this. I'm not a total train wreck right now, but I can still keep using and function at an not like a suboptimal level, or like
Correct.
enough,
Yeah.
So what caused you? So actually, I'd like the listeners to know how long have you been sober for?
Yeah, I've been sober, so I'm coming up next month on the 12th. Will be 8 months, so I'm just over 7 months.
Congratulations.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
So
a good journey.
now, with all the backstory of you're pretty much everything you've dealt
Half of
with
the
addiction,
backstory.
half of the
We could
backstory,
go on, but yes.
right,
Yeah,
right. What led you to getting sober this time around, and why was it different than the other times?
for sure. It's a great question. So this time around, like you said, John, I had a level of, I guess you could say, like, I don't want to put this appearance, appearance success. Like, yes, I held down a job. I had strong friendships. I did activities outside of work and drinking. Like, I had some sort of life, but it was very much, I'd say, like a binge. I was a binge drinker. So when I would go socialize and I would go out on weekends, it would be like a lot of binge drinking, a lot of over drinking, and it was like I was like okay with that for a while. I had a lot of fun times, especially the last few years. My sister and I had a good group of friends. My parents had moved up north, and we had access to their lake. So every time my parents would go, we'd throw like a 3-day party at their place, and like it was a lot of fun, dude. Like birthday parties, we had fucking jousting arenas. We would bring in like bands and fucking dunk tanks and shit. Like everything we did was like extra, like completely extra, and that was a lot of fun. It was a fun experience, and alcohol was largely tied to that, and like other party drugs and stuff like that, ketamine. But um,
Right.
I was really afraid for a long time that giving up alcohol and drugs in general were going to lead to a just really vanilla and boring life, and that I myself would become just a dull and I don't know. It was a lot of fear, man. There was a lot of fear in letting go of that, and what I've seen now through this experience is I, I've gained everything back. Like I can't imagine sacrificing what I have going on now and the relationships that I am building with people, new relationships, like really doing a better job at exercising, being more adamant, more accurate, more precise, having more control, and then no longer compromising with my lower self. Right? There was a lot of compromising when you do that kind of drinking and drug use. Your fucking Sundays are gone. If you're binge drinking on a Saturday night and you had plans to do shit on Sunday, you're not doing all the shit you're not waking up early and going for a run. And if you are, you're a sociopath. Like, there's no way. And so there's a level of compromise, man. And so I am working on. You've inspired me a lot in recovery. You and Muncie, man, like you guys have been great friends. Couldn't ask for better friends to have going through a transition like this. So I appreciate you. And you're writing in your book, and I realize that there's some stuff that I want to communicate to and speak with the world. So one of those books is called Better Sundays, and that's a book that I'm working on right now. And that's a big reason there is, I mean, that's 1/7, right, of your life is Sunday. And if you're blowing 1/7 of your life, like that's a huge loss, man. That's like
Oh yeah.
statistically significant. So getting better quality on that. But I mean, this time more than ever, dude, there was like a kind of spiritual awakening that happened during my detox. That was different than other detoxes. The gears had already been spinning. So
Yeah.
the
I was
you
gonna
know
say that you had a lot of really good wellness practices that you would always talk about, even while you were still doing the partying and the
yeah.
drinking. You're planning, like you'd work out occasionally, you'd hit diets and stuff. Like you've like you said, you had this community aspect of things. Like you were doing a lot of really good work on yourself. But like you were telling me on the phone multiple times, you're like, dude, I just like drink Friday and Saturday, and then my Sunday is fucking shot.
Mhm.
I'm just too hungover to do anything else.
Yeah.
And so I remember that. And I kind of want to ask what led up to getting sober the 7 to 8 months ago, though. Why? What
For
happened this
sure.
time with you?
For sure. So specifically what happened was we had played a show. Toad played a show, and we had a fucking great time. It was awesome. And, anyone knows me knows I'm very open about all this. And, I'm totally willing to share that in the podcast. So what had happened was I had a gram. I had about a gram. It was a half gram or a gram of heroin that I bought. And I had kept that for like a rainy day, right? Whatever the fuck that means. So after we played our Toad show, I remember like, okay, I had this prize for myself waiting at my place. So I opened it up and I did some. And then that was off to the races for about 2 weeks with that. It had lasted a lot longer than I thought. The detox off that was rough. It was humbling experience. While I was on it, I was still drinking too quite a bit. So health problems from alcohol that I hadn't experienced in the past, right? There was a lot of this drinking and fun, but the gears were already turning about the quality of life aspect that we talked about, right? But now it was becoming physical. John, I had like a acid reflux disease, and I had this for a long time. And I gotta tell you, like someone with acid reflux disease, drinking is one of the fucking worst things you can do. So that finally caught up with me where I was waking up in the middle of the night, like, like I couldn't breathe. Like I literally couldn't breathe because of so much alcohol. It was doing something. I was like looking it up online, and it says like, yeah, when you drink a lot, it can make your acid reflux bad to where you can't breathe. So I was waking up out of breath, unable to breathe. I thought I was gonna like die in my sleep. So you're mixing the alcohol with the opiates, right? I was waking up, I was nodding out and waking up and already slow heart rate, unable to breathe. So there was some like in my head like near death experiences on that, and that was scaring me quite a little bit. So a large majority of this initially was fear based. It was a bit of fear based recovery, but more than that, I had like acknowledged the fact that like, well, this time it's all me. No one knew about my issue with that, right? This was all something that I had going on. This wasn't mom and dad calling me, telling me I needed to do something. This wasn't my employer telling me I was going to lose my job. This wasn't schools. This was like, and I'm like, I have an opportunity here to make a change for my higher self and be a better version of myself. And I know now I have all the tools. I've been implementing these tools slowly over the course of the last, say, like 3 or 4 years, right? Ever since an experience I had with Josh Harrison, but that's a little separate, but that was another spiritual awakening I had, right? There was all these
Right.
levels of many spiritual awakenings that led me to this point, right? So I had the faith. I basically had faith at this point. I've seen it. I've seen you and Muncie do it. That I can live a fucking awesome life without drinking. I truly believe that I can. And the drinking was the thing that was always bringing me back to the drugs, man. Like I liked drinking. It was socially acceptable. It was very easy to find some other stuff as well. But having had experiences through music, I've never felt more alive and like a high that you get from being on stage and jamming and vibing with your friends and creating something, right? So I experienced that, and I've experienced it sober, and it felt really good, right? So all these elements are telling me I've got all these great things going on in my life. I'm experiencing peace and spirituality and love and fun, like raw fun. And I know I can do it without the drugs and alcohol. I've got all these physical goals too. It's like now time to pull the trigger, right? That and all the physical. It was just a perfect storm of like everything that had happened leading up to that point, and then looking at the future, like here's what's going to happen next if I do these two, if I either one, right? Sobriety or continue down the route of drugs and alcohol. It'll be another rehab. It'll be it'll be death. It'd be death or just me every 10 years doing okay, being mediocre and then falling back, and then being mediocre and falling back. I would almost
Right.
rather be fucking dead. To
Then
be
then
completely
have to
honest.
live that cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather be dead than live a mediocre existence. 100%.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know if that answers it. It's a pretty in-depth explanation, but you should expect nothing less.
No, that was perfect. So 8 months ago, you finally pulled the trigger on something that you believe you know, it was a long time coming,
Yeah.
honestly. Now with where you're at now you're 8 months into it. How does it feel?
I feel great, man. But more importantly, I feel like I actually feel, right? So
Right.
not always great, but that's okay. That's okay. You know, I know we were joking around a little bit before this. Like we go through stuff, right? I'm learning, but now I'm able to learn and reflect and be like, well, how come I don't feel great? Like, was there something I missed on my non-negotiables, on my morning routine? Did I fucking scroll Instagram for 30 minutes too long today watching reels? Because that never makes me feel better. So like, are there addicting things? Did I eat like shit? Did I mistreat somebody earlier? Was I not being mindful? Was I not embracing my principles? So, you know, with a clear head, you're able to do that. If I'm drunk and I'm high, there's no growth. There's no learning from it, right? But
Well, I'd like to say, like, when you internalize those questions, you actually, and in my opinion, when you're asking those really deep questions about your day, like, why am I feeling like shit? You know the answer. So in order to not face the answer, you drink, smoke, and do drugs.
yeah, it's
You're
escapism,
like, well,
instant
yeah,
gratification.
exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have the answer, but I'm going to sweep it under the rug really quick,
yeah,
you
I
know?
got the answer, but you know, this looks a lot more delicious right now.
Right.
Let's
Right.
go do coke about it. I'll tell you the answer. Let me do a bunch of coke. We're gonna start a business together. So funny, man. You know,
So
so
many
it was,
nights.
and that was the key thing we identified in therapy, Mohammed and I. It was, you know, we wrote the lower self, higher self, which has come up a few times, and the lower self was rooted in instant gratification, right? It's constant
Right.
escapism. It's just everything, and people who suffer from the disease of addiction, addicts, alcoholics, it is right very much a spiritual deficiency. It's not like alcohol or drugs are not our problem. That was the
No.
current stimulus, right? It's very much, it goes deeper than that, and it can manifest itself in so many areas of your life. So doing a deep dive spiritually, that's why 12-step programs exist. I myself am not like adhering to a stringent 12-step program. I'm doing something slightly different, right, with my therapist. That's worked for
It's
him
kind
and
of
it's working for me. And I know
kind of
you
like
do,
what
right?
it's kind of like what I did
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
for sure. So and not to say that 12 steps aren't great. I've seen it help, like, you know, at least people that I've met, you know, tens, if not hundreds of people. So it's a great program. But at the core of it, right, it's a spiritual illness that we're combating. So really diving deep into that has been it's made this experience much more different. And then also having the tools that I've been slowly implementing, like meditation, gratitude lists, reading some of these books, right? Your brother Joe and I bonded over the fact that we had both read and enjoyed The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was a very influential book that
Right.
helped get the gears rolling for me too. So a lot of good shit out there, man. A lot of great resources. And if something's not working for you, or you don't have a great person that you feel is helping you get to that next level, they are out there. Fucking call me, man. Reach out, like anyone listening to this, reach out to me, shoot me a message, give me a call, shoot me a text. I truly do. One of my key purposes here is compassion, and moving forward in my journey is to truly seek out and help others achieve a sense of control over their own lives and their existence. So definitely here for that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Honestly, that's awesome.
You're beautiful, John.
You fucking love you, man. Hell yeah.
Love you too, brother.
Goddamn. So, how's your how's the physical wellness going now that you're
Fuck, man, I'm a
clear-headed?
fucking beast, bro. I
I
got
know. I
I got some work to go.
I'm gonna say I'm proud of you though. You're
Thanks,
consistent. You're
man.
tracking everything. You're
Yeah, I'm
doing
doing
it.
what Joe did. I was remember when you told me
Yeah.
your brother tracked every fucking macronutrient. I was like, that motherfucker's crazy. And I'm like, dude, that's like it's the way to do it, though, dude. My therapist is like, you gotta fucking track that shit. I was like, all right, dude, I'll give it a go. So, oh
If
man, I
you're
got a
looking
lot of
for
work to
those
go.
if you're
Go ahead,
looking for those type of results, you have to track it like that.
dude, for sure.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
If we track everything
And
else we do, you should track the food you're eating. If you want the ultimate
right,
control, like you track your finances or your calendar for work, your meetings, your like whatever it is we do, everything should be measurable. You have to be able to measure it to know if you're hitting the metrics you want. And then if not, you got to adjust. Right.
Right.
So it's a science. Everything is. So
Go-
the journey's been good.
Goal
Man.
achieving.
Yeah, for sure. And it's the only way you can do it. Like, oh, I'm not getting results. Like, yeah, you could go to the gym every day. If you eat like shit, you're fucked, man. You're not going to lose any weight. I did it for years. You gotta have the eating habits and the eating regimen. So it's been good, brother. I got a ways to go. I clocked in at 236.7 pounds 2 days ago. I believe at my heaviest earlier this year in March, I was 265. So I'm down about 30 pounds.
Okay.
Yep, got about 20 more to go.
Nice.
Thanks, brother.
There you go.
Yeah, I changed the goal from 220 to 200. I feel like I'd be a more comfortable 200. So
I think
go
you
to
could do it.
200. Yeah, oh, definitely. I know I can. It's going to be different this time because 200 back in the day was 200, but it wasn't like a muscular 200 because I wasn't hitting the protein. I wasn't doing the macros. So this time 200 on me is going to look a lot different than the last time I was 200, which shit was a long time ago. But
right. I'm
excited, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's going. Zach's a fucking beast. I just saw his Strava today. He did like a 20-mile run yesterday. I was like, motherfucker. He's like running 20 miles at like, God, it was like 9 minutes a mile. I'm like, how do these fuckers do that? Him, your brother,
pace.
And like for 20 miles, man. I'm like, I don't know, dude. So it's impressive. It's good to be training with guys like that because, it makes you kick into next gear. So it's cool. It's been the Iron Man. Shout out to Zach Vandegooch and Josh Harrison on that shit, dude. Like, both big inspirations. It all started, Zach and I, with a 5K that we did like 3 years ago, or it was a 10K. And he's like, I want to do a 10K for my birthday. And I was like, are you fucking crazy, man? You know how far that is? And then he's like, dude, you got 2 weeks to train. And I was like, all right. So we did it. And I was like, holy shit, that was awesome. Like, we should do a half marathon and a triathlon. So he signed up right after that. We did that shit. I was like, we should do a marathon and a half Ironman. And he's like, okay. And then I was like, we should do an Ironman. And he's like, dude, all right, fuck it. So we got the Ironman October 23rd in Sacramento, California. And that's
nice.
The next milestone that we're training for right now. So
hell yeah.
It's been cool, man. It's awesome.
So
next question.
Next question. What else are you doing?
Protein. Lots of protein.
Doing the protein. Not now, Chief. I'm in the fucking zone. So what else you got on your plate for the future for Brandon? What's cracking? I know you got the Better Sundays thing going, and
sure.
You're in
so
the
yeah, we got okay. We've got the Better Sundays thing going. So I've kind of started drafting out a basic idea of what I want that to look like. Some intros. I'm basically putting thoughts to paper. That's a good starting point for me, man. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with all these concepts, right? Like, the first thing about like a book, like writing a book, where the fuck do I start? Just start, right? What's cool about your book is it was a compilation of thoughts and ideas and journal entries, right? So that's just putting the pen to paper is the best way to start. So I've started that. I still do have Mandarin tutoring. I thought it was today. So I was actually on the call. I was like, wait a minute. This isn't until August 6th. So I scheduled her out like I must have missed it today. But I try to do, according to my schedule, tutoring with my Mandarin tutor once a week. So we got that going, staying with the Mandarin Chinese studying. I volunteer just about every other Saturday morning for a nonprofit in my area, Saturday morning. So Saturday mornings usually look like I either wake up, do my morning routine, and I go volunteer, or I wake up, I do my morning routine, and I go to the gym, or do like a run or some sort of exercise, right? And I found that has really jump-started the quality of my weekends. So we've got that going on. Work is great. I fucking absolutely love my coworkers, management, my boss, my VP. We have an awesome team this year. The Detroit crew, Grand Rapids crew, Cleveland, like everyone is so in line. It's very rare at an organization, especially like a large organization like the company I work at, to find such I guess like overlap of values and sense of community, right? There's all like these jokes and memes about like, oh, we're like a family here, and like everybody fucking says that. Like every job tries to compare it to a family, but I have never once worked at a company where I have felt so okay being unapologetically myself with my boss. Like they all know, like everything we talked about on this podcast, everybody knows I work with. That's fucking crazy, right? That's like
Yeah, that is
people like, I
crazy.
can't believe you opened up so much. Like you probably shouldn't tell people that. I don't give a fuck, and they know I don't give a fuck, and that's why they hired me. I'm like, okay, if you don't like it, then I guess I have to go. Like I don't like, but we like there's that love, respect, and openness, and that understanding, right? And we're all on the same page, and I'm just super fortunate to be at the the organization I'm at and with the team that I have. So work is good, man. I'm gunning down goal wise President's Club, looking to go to President's Club, which is for people who are non-sales people. President's Club is an annual trip that is awarded to the highest performing sales representatives at a company. So in order to do that, I've got my goals written down, specific like sales targets, goals, quotas, and metrics that I have to hit. And that'll be in Greece on a cruise ship. It'll be like a Greece cruise. Yeah, so I'm pretty stoked about that, man. So just continuing to put the gas to the floor there and just fucking dial that in.
Nice.
And Toad, right? We got Toad. We got a few shows coming up. We got 3 shows coming up next month. We're doing practice once a week. So that'll require some extra practice on my end. Twice a week with the sax is a good amount for me to do to make sure that I'm doing the things I need to do to dial it in.
Right.
Song creation. We're going to be setting aside time together as a band to develop new songs and get experimental, right? So we've got that going on. Let's see what else, man. I'm tired just talking about all of it. And then I have the pleasure of talking with my awesome friends, man, like you, and staying in touch, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's you, Zach, I'm not going to name all my friends because I'll forget someone will get upset. So I'm not going through this. Right. This isn't a fucking Academy Award speech, but it's cool being able to call someone that I love every day and be able to shoot the shit with them for 30 minutes to an hour, right? I make that a point. That's super important, right? Being a relationship-oriented individual. So, yeah, I mean that's pretty much what's going on, man. I do go to AA meetings once a week, so I attend that fellowship just to stay in touch with the community. Therapy once a month with Mohammed, so I just got that scheduled down. Ironman trainings. Sutton's Bay with Zach next month. We're going to do a half Ironman. Then the following month, we're going to do a 2/3 Ironman. And then the following month is the full Ironman in Sacramento. So we've got a training regiment for that. I think that's pretty much it, man. Yeah, I've got like a lot of free time. So just,
That sounds like it.
It's like, I'm just winging it, bro. I'm just fucking chilling.
No, I've seen your planner. You're definitely not winging it. You pretty much post that every day on Instagram.
That's been a new development. Thanks to Mohammed. He was like, hey man, it's important to promote these sort of things. People will benefit from this. They'll reach out. It gives you an opportunity to possibly monetize in the future off of this personal development that you're doing. You can teach courses, do a podcast, right? Something on sales. He's like, whatever, but it's good to show that. And he's like, but most importantly, it serves as an excellent tool for accountability. So like, oh yeah, shit, I got 30 followers that watch these videos, bro. I gotta fucking post my shit. I gotta stay on top.
Yeah, right.
I better eat good today. I got 30 people gonna ask me like, hey, why didn't you post your fucking food today? What did you eat? Did you eat some fucking Wendy's? You got it all over your face.
You need that accountability though.
It's important, man. We have to.
Yeah.
No matter how high performing we are, we're constantly battling a lower version of ourselves that's telling us, fuck it. Who gives a shit? Like, you got to have some sort of accountability, man. You got to have it. It's important.
Yeah, I've just gotten back into that accountability recently too, with working out and dieting again. So
okay,
because every time I
what are some of your goals?
What are some of my goals? Fuck,
we'll start with the physical stuff because I know you were doing a lot of basketball and you were wanting to gain weight, right?
Right. So here's the problem I've run into in 2023, Brandon.
Excuses?
Didn't make any fucking goals. No, it's not even excuses. Okay. I just didn't make any fucking, just no goals. No goals.
Okay.
I had this. You have these visions of like dreams, or like things you want to accomplish, almost fantasies because they're fantasies unless they have goals attached to them and things to reach, right?
Yep.
And the year has been, and not even just like my year, friends, family, people I've talked to that have hit me up on Instagram, like that are fans of the podcast. I've talked to a lot of people this year, and 2023 has been, for whatever reason, pretty difficult. I don't know if that has anything linked to inflation. People have less money. Life changes are happening. Life has been very stressful, right? And that is an excuse, in my opinion. But I started to crumble a little bit in terms of my goals. You know, I was just doing the bare minimum. I'm like, I've got this podcast, you know, I'm active here and there. I've got vacations planned, you know, just whatever. I was just kind of like on autopilot, you know, and I don't operate like that. And I've noticed that over the last couple months that if I don't have goals, I don't enjoy life. I don't enjoy the podcast. I don't enjoy writing. I don't enjoy basketball. I don't enjoy anything if I don't have a goal to reach. That's just how I think now, you know, or what I've come to, because the last 6 to 7 months, it's like, damn, dude, then I get a little too nihilistic, you know, because then I'm like, what is really the point if I don't have the, you know how I get, right?
I know how you get.
Nihilism. Yeah, I know how. Yeah. So then I'm like, what's the fucking point? You know, I don't have any goals to reach anyway. So who gives a shit, right? So now I'm here at the end of July, and it's my mission. My goal is to
make some goals.
Kill it. Well, make some goals. Yeah. My goal is to make some goals. All right.
That's a really great goal, some goals, dude. Like, that's attainable, right?
That's what I'm saying. And I think other than making goals as my goal, my next goal is to use the next 4 months of the year to lay a really good foundation again. A foundation that I had before I started smoking tobacco habitually the last year. It was on and off though.
Cigars,
so I'd say for
right?
the last cigars, yeah. So for the last year, I'd probably, or 10 months, I'd say I've had 5 months of smoking and 5 months of not smoking, right? Or not using nicotine. So it's been 50-50, and it's been extremely suboptimal in my opinion, right? So I'm trying to not do that probably ever again. If I quit nicotine this time, I'm probably like, I don't see a point in going back to it. I've already
probably is not the verbiage
the
for
answer.
Someone who is certain. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you're not sure yet. You're not sure yet.
No,
you can acknowledge that.
That's the problem I'm running into. See, well, the issue is if I have like if I have a couple acres in with my house on it, I've wanted to grow tobacco. I've wanted to cure it myself.
Really?
Yeah, I've wanted to like try it because like what I'm smoking, I don't know what they spray on it. You know, just like it's somebody else's corporation. It's like I'd really like to see how it's done. I don't know how to explain that.
Cool.
That's why I'm only saying probably. It's like I want to get to a point where.
Have you done it in your video game?
Wait. Which,
have you grown tobacco in your video game?
Stardew Valley? No, I don't think there's any tobacco in Stardew Valley.
There's no tobacco crops. So
that
could be a good starting point to see if you like it.
I know, right? The 8-bit tobacco plant that I'm growing, because it's pretty retro.
Some good shit. That's cool.
So my goal is physical goal is to gain another 10 pounds of muscle. Actually, if I was going to say a goal, it is to work out consistently, even though I might not be playing basketball.
Does that look like every day for you? Or is it like 5 times a week? I feel like 5 days a week is solid, man. That's right. Solid.
My issue is the peak of my physical wellness all came while I was hooping a lot, but I was working out 5 days a week and hooping like 3 days a week. So I had like almost 6 days of being active with 1 day rest. And I did that for like 5 to 6 months straight.
How'd you feel?
I was in the best shape of my life.
How'd you feel?
I felt amazing. But the problem is I got hurt in basketball. I get hurt a lot. I roll an ankle. My knee gets fucked up. And I internalize it as the nihilism comes around, and it's just like, well, why work out? We can't hoop, you know? So then I go through a month or two of not working out, right? So my goal is to change it into, I just need to find a way to stay active no matter what, even if I'm not hooping.
Yeah, maybe try some other shit that's less intensive for like. So when Josh was running a lot. He fucking snapped his foot while he was running, and he kept running.
Yeah.
This is fucking crazy. And he snapped his foot, so he had that fucking boot on his foot, and he did that. He did the bike. He did the bike thing, and he did a little bit of swimming. He didn't like swimming as much, but he kind of got into the bike aspect, and he said that helped alleviate some of the some of the pain from not being able to run. So yeah, just
Right.
it's be a good opportunity of exploration for you to seek out other options and step out of your comfort zone, because it sounds like basketball is a very comfortable thing for you. That's like your shit, So
I started using that when I first got sober. That was like definitely my thing. I'm just going to go to the gym, and even if I'm not playing against people, I'm just going to shoot around for an hour and a half with my headphones in. It's almost like a meditation for me,
cool.
to just get in that state. I also might get on a baseball team either in the fall or next year, and
yeah,
we might actually get a basketball team together. So I've realized that I need like some sort of like competition. I can't just like go to the gym 5 to 6 days a week. That's not
for sure.
I need an activity,
Yeah.
And now I know that. So
cool.
The other goal, I'd like to finish the second book by the end of the year too.
Nice. Damn, dude, cooking it up.
So I've got around like 20 to 25,000 words. The other 5,000 are notes in my phone that I have to, but 20,000 is in a document already. It's not too organized, but I have a good portion of the book done.
Cool.
I need to add, organize, and whatever. And I know if I really hammered it out in the next 4 months, like I can do it by the start of the new year. I'm very confident.
How much time do you spend a week writing for your book?
So here's the thing. I have been on and off with writing the last 2 months, and it's been linked to me not working out or staying active, right? Emotionally, mentally, physically, if things aren't in line, I don't feel like writing, because sometimes if I'm down in the dumps, I write about being down. I write about being down in the dumps, and I was already super edgy emo kid for 12 years, poetry and all that stuff. So I've kind of wanted to get away from the down in the dump shit, because I've written about it a lot, right?
Yeah, it's also not good for you mentally. It's actually
exactly
not good to write about how shitty you feel. You'll feel shittier. Yeah.
In the month of May, I had a bit of also a little bit of an awakening, spiritual awakening, where in 3 weeks during May, I wrote those 25,000 words in 3 weeks. They just poured out. Like I could not stop. It was crazy. Now I need to organize it and make it articulate, I should say. But
so how many hours would you say that was to type those 25 or write those 25,000 words?
I probably spent at least 2 hours a day. Not every single day, but it was, dude, it probably, I can't even tell you, because it was almost like I was in the Twilight Zone when it was happening.
You just fucking dialed in. You're in the zone, and time doesn't even pass.
Here's the thing. Throughout the day, like I'm whipping out my phone. In my notes in my iPhone, like I have 1,500 notes in it. I would fucking 200 words here, get home, type it up, maybe another 200 to 300 words here and there. Like for 3 straight weeks, like my brain would not fucking stop.
So that's how your process is then, because I was curious. So like you just like on the fly, you pull out your phone. Like if you feel something, you're typing it. You're not like sitting down at a fucking coffee shop or in your office right here. Like, okay, now is writing time, and you just start writing.
I do have those times whenever I sit down with like a spiral notebook. When I sit down and I get comfortable in a desk, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna write. I do have those times, but also when something comes to me, I'm writing it in my phone immediately, because I might be sitting in traffic, or I might be sitting at my desk, and I'm like, I have to put this down or I'll forget it.
That's how that's how music happens. Like songs for me, right? It's like you're doing dishes and you're like, oh, that's fucking stupid enough for me to write my phone. Like, I guess it would be. Yeah. And that's okay. That's good to hear, man, because that's where I've been struggling, right, with the book, is I've been just setting time aside, like time blocking each week. But sometimes when you're not in the zone, you're not in the zone. And
dude,
perhaps if it happens more authentically like that, you would get further, right?
Honestly, in the times where I've tried to set aside time for writing, I've failed even more horribly. When I have told myself I'm doing it for 2 hours between 1 and 3 o'clock today, and I get to 1 o'clock and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
And I'm just like at 2:00, I'm like, nope. So I've noticed that the creativity, you have to just let it happen when it happens. Now, here's the thing: setting aside that time to maybe work on organizing the writing for the book, that's fine because that's more rational, logical. It's like I'm making an outline and stuff like that. But when you're
Sure.
talking about actually producing the content, in my experience, just letting it go whenever it comes to you is easy, or easier, I
For
should say.
sure. You're right, man. It's like it's what some people talk about. It's like the flow state. When you're
It
really in a
is.
flow state where you're transitioning from things and everything's natural, and you just pull out your phone, you type, you put it back down, you go on to your thing. Like you're constantly doing shit that's progressing those goals and driving it forward. Right.
Right.
It's cool.
And my last goal is by this time next year, I'd like to get 1,000 downloads per episode on my podcast, or 1,000 listens per episode.
I was saying, am I supposed to be downloading this shit? I thought you just listened to it.
No, it's called a download when people play it.
Oh, okay, got you. I was like,
Yeah.
man, I've been fucking you over, bro. I was like, sorry, I didn't
No.
know. Like, I've been like pirating like all your shit.
Nah, it's all right. Yeah, I'm
listening
trying to
on
get
a
to
CD.
I can honestly burn all my podcast episodes on CDs and hand them out to people at the mall, like my mixtape,
So
you know?
retro. It's like you like your mixtape, dude. Like the one guy who was handing out his mixtape at McDonald's. He was putting them in Happy Meals and he got fired. Fucking legendary.
Yeah, that is legendary.
What a great way to go out.
Right.
Cool, man. Those are some fucking awesome goals.
So, do you have any tips for the listeners on if they might be struggling with addiction, or if they're just struggling with not having control of their life, like you wanted to help people be in control
Absolutely,
of that?
man. Get back to the basics. So, basics short term, a good short term fix that anyone can do at any given second that doesn't require too much cognition is clean your environment. Look at where you're at, right? Whether that's your house, your car, where you're spending time. Fucking clean that environment. That's a great first thing to do, right? And then second, move your body. Get the fuck out of your house. Go for a walk. Doesn't have to be, you have to go run a marathon. Go for a walk. Do some push-ups, right? Go move the body. Clean the environment, move the body. Now, the second thing that I would say for people that are looking at actually creating sustainable long-term change is to first write down lower self, higher self. Acknowledge that you have two selves, right? We got the self that operates at a higher frequency, and we have the self that operates on a lower frequency. Acknowledge those, recognize those, talk to your lower self. What is that self about, right? And write it down. Break it down, grab a piece of paper, you fold that shit in half, open it up, lower self, higher self on one side, and write that out and get detailed, right? What does that look like? What are some of those habits? What are the, core values of your higher self? What is it that your lower self does? Is it smoking, drinking? Is it, engaging in pornography? Is it lying, stealing, cheating? Is it whatever, man? We all, whatever it is that that your higher self does, that's preventing your higher self from action, right? Write that down. And then same with your higher self. Like, what does that look like? What are the things that bring you enjoyment, right? Whether it's community or listening to others or helping people or volunteering, investing. It can be, but it has to be all rooted in your intent, right? Because a lot of the times, let me give you an example. Okay. So there could be something that for one person could be higher self. There could be a lower self for somebody else, right? If we're using,
Right.
let's say music, let's say, saxophone, playing saxophone. So if I've got shit to do that I don't want to do, or I'm frustrated or I'm annoyed and I don't want to deal with something, and I pick up my saxophone and I start playing, that would actually be lower self in that point in time, because I'm using my saxophone as escapism from from the reality of a situation, right? So
Right.
we have to make sure that we're not attributing things that can be good, and then our intent is shifted as a form of instant gratification or isolation. It could be isolation as well, right?
Yeah, the wrong
And
intent then.
100% the wrong intent, right? Difference between solitude and isolation. And that was something I struggle with, right? lower self, not myself, lower self. And you have to create that distance too, because it's really easy to say, oh, I struggle with this, or I do this, or I'm a blank, I'm a this. No, lower self, higher self. My lower self finds comfort in isolation. So, but my higher self will find comfort in solitude. Solitude is the intent. I'm choosing to utilize this beautiful atmosphere and create something of peace and tranquility for myself. Isolation is going to be, I'm running away from things. I feel bad. I feel negative. I turn my phone off. I don't want anyone to call me. I'm sad and I'm depressed. I want to lay in bed and fucking die. Right? That's lower self. So understanding that fundamentally will be the stepping stones for someone changing and then recognizing the patterns of each one. So yeah, that would be the advice I would give.
I think that's some great ass advice, honestly. For sure. Yeah. Well, I think this was a motherfucking good conversation.
Yeah, dude, it always fucking is, baby.
As usual.
Let's go.
So I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Dude,
love you to death.
It.
Love your
Too,
story, man. Love everything you're trying to do and everything you are doing. Still to come. Really excited to see what Brandon Kaitschuck has in store for helping himself and the world. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
One day at a time, man.
One day at a time.
This was higher self shit.
John, yeah.
Thank you, man. I feel a lot better. I was a little bit in a run. Like I went for a run this morning. I did all my non-negotiables and morning routine, but I felt like, I don't know, I felt a little bit off, and this certainly has helped. This has helped me feel better. So I appreciate it, man.
I'm right there with you, honestly. So this helped me just as much as it helped you. And good. I'm super stoked to have it help all of my listeners as well. So thanks for coming by. You guys can follow him on Instagram, Align Your Minds, for all that good wellness practices and stuff. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow. And thanks for sticking around. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Love you guys.